The audio you just heard, maybe you didn't understand the language, but I know you felt the pain in her voice. It was not just any audio. It was a voice message from a newly married girl sent to her father. Her name was Rithanya. She had just started her married life, dreaming of happiness, of a fresh beginning. But instead, her life quickly turned into a living hell. This is not just one family's story. It is a story that shook not only India, but also the hearts of every parent and daughter who heard it. On her wedding day, Rithanya looked full of joy. Her smile showed pure excitement. Even her husband and his family seemed like kind and decent people. But behind that smile, fate had written something else. Rithanya didn't know that her new life would soon turn into torture, and that she had only 2 months left to live. In Tirupur, Coimbatore, there lived a 53-year-old man named R. Nurai. He was a successful real estate businessman, wealthy and respected in the city. He had only one daughter, Rithanya. In the year 2025, when Rithanya reached the age of 27, her father felt it was time to find her a groom. With love and hope, he started searching for a good match. After some time, a proposal came from a boy's family in Tirupur. The boy's name was Kavan Kumar. Meetings were set up, families talked, and everything looked smooth from the outside. The boy and his family spoke politely, and nothing seemed wrong. Soon, Rithanya's father decided that his daughter would marry Kavan Kumar. The wedding was fixed for April 11th. At first glance, it looked like a happy match, but hidden behind the smiles was a dark truth. Even before the wedding, Kavan's family had placed big demands before Rithanya's parents. They asked for a Volvo car worth nearly 70 lakh rupees and also 4.5 kilograms of gold as dowry. Rithanya's father, though burdened, agreed to meet their demands. He loved his daughter too much and wanted her to be happy. On the wedding day, Kavan's family was given a brand new Volvo car along with some part of the gold. Still, the family was not fully satisfied. Their specific demand was clear: exactly 4.5 kilograms of gold. Out of this, only a part was handed over during the marriage. The rest, about 2 to 2.5 kilograms, remained. With folded hands, Rithanya's father explained that he could not provide the full amount at once. He promised that within some time, he would hand over the rest, around 2 to 2.5 kilos, that was still due. The wedding took place as planned. A huge amount of money was spent because many rich and well-known people of the city had come. To her family, everything looked perfect. They felt happy that their daughter was finally married. But while they thought their work was done, on the other side, from the very first day at her in-laws' house, Rithanya's life was filled with pain. She wasn't even allowed to sit before they began questioning her. Her father-in-law asked when the rest of the gold would arrive. Her mother-in-law doubted if the jewels she brought were even real. And her husband, who should have stood by her, stayed silent, only watching. Soon they locked the gate so she could not step out, not even speak to anyone or share her phone number. She was forced to do all the housework, from cooking to washing. Earlier, the house had many servants, but after marriage they removed them all. Even though there was a washing machine, they made her wash clothes by hand. Not for a single moment was she free. Her mother-in-law scolded her all the time, leaving her with no peace in her new home. At night, her husband would change completely. He became like a monster, forcing himself on her and hurting her in ways that cannot even be said openly. For Rithanya, nights were no less than a nightmare. The wedding had taken place on April 11th, but by April 30th, Rithanya was back at her parents' home. She broke down and told her father that her in-laws were troubling her terribly. Her mother-in-law and father-in-law kept torturing her mentally with taunts and insults, while her husband physically abused her. She could not bear it anymore. For a few days, her family kept her with them, trying to give her comfort. But that was just the start of another storm. Because in our society, whenever a married daughter comes back home in distress, parents are crushed under the fear of what will people say. Instead of supporting her fully, they often tell their daughters to adjust, to sacrifice, to keep the marriage going. Rithanya stayed at her parents' home for some time. Later, with a lot of effort, her family spoke with her in-laws. After long talks, things seemed settled. Promises were made, words of change were given, and finally Rithanya was sent back again to her husband's house. But the truth was bitter. Nothing had really changed. After about 25 to 30 days, the torture began all over again. Her in-laws once more started troubling her with their endless demands and cruel behavior. Unable to bear it, Rithanya came back to her parents' house once again. This time, her father sat her down and asked her directly, "Tell me clearly, what is really happening there?" Rithanya had already been sharing the truth with him over phone calls. She told him that there was only one reason behind all the insults, harassment, and abuse: the demand for more dowry. The harsh reality is this: when a father gives dowry once, he unknowingly opens the door to endless demands. Because a family that can demand once will surely demand again. The truth is, no dowry should ever be given in the first place. A daughter herself is the greatest gift. But sadly, this was the mistake Rithanya's father made. Kavan's family grew greedier with time. They used to taunt her father, saying, "In our neighborhood, the other daughters-in-law brought dowries worth 100 to 200 crore rupees from their families. And what have you given? Practically nothing. Neither the wedding expenses you bore, nor the gold you gave matters to us. Our demands are far higher, and only if you fulfill them will your daughter have peace in this house. Otherwise, she will suffer." Deep inside, Rithanya knew she was only being used. Some time went by. After that, she no longer wanted to return to her in-laws' house. But her father called her mother-in-law, made Rithanya say sorry, and promised her that nothing like this would happen again. The moment Rithanya stepped into that house again, everything started just like before. She kept listening to her parents, who told her to adjust, saying marriage life is always like this, and everyone has to adjust. Still, when the pain grew too heavy, on June 22nd, Rithanya once more went back to her father's home. She said she wanted to stay there for a few days because her mind was deeply troubled. This time, when Rithanya came home, it felt as if she carried some unusual thoughts in her heart. It had been 6 days since Rithanya came back to her parents' house. The date was June 28th. That morning, around 9:30 a.m., she told her family she was taking her car to the nearby temple. She said she wanted to bow her head before God and sit quietly for some time. Her family, knowing how disturbed she had been, thought maybe this would help her calm her mind. So, at 9:30 a.m., Rithanya left for the temple. Hours passed, but she did not return. Then, at about 1 p.m., her father's phone rang, and the call shook him to his core. The call was from Bundipalayam, not far from Tirupur. The person on the line said that Rithanya's vehicle was parked there. Inside, their daughter was lying unconscious. Her body was still, foam covered her mouth, and beside her lay a rat poison bottle. In that moment, everyone understood what she had done. The moment they heard the news, Rithanya's mother and father ran in fear and panic towards Modipalayam. When they saw her condition, she was quickly taken to the government hospital in Avinashi. But before any help could be given, the doctor declared that she was already dead, even before reaching the hospital. This shocking incident broke her family completely. They were drowning in grief, unable to believe how such a huge tragedy had happened so suddenly. Maybe her parents had never fully understood the pain she was living with in her husband's house, or the silent battles she was fighting every single day. Slowly, her parents began to realize the truth. Who was behind all this? Who was really responsible for their daughter's death? They waited in silence through the night. Finally, on June 29th, around 11 a.m., after the post-mortem, Rithanya's body was handed over to them. Rithanya had left behind 7 voice recordings on mobile, just before her death. If I were to play them in her own voice, many people might not understand the language. That is why I will translate and tell you exactly what she said. In one recording, Rathanya's broken voice said, "Dad, I am sorry. I don't want to live anymore. Please forgive me. Since the day I was born, you have carried pain and shame because of me. Forgive me once again. This Kevin, my husband, I cannot live with him. His family is like a criminal gang. They married me only to ruin my life. All my life I never want to stay with Kevin. But I don't have the strength to step out and start fresh. The mental torture they give me is too heavy. Even physically I cannot take it anymore. Every day they hurt me. I don't know whom to tell my struggles. Whenever I share, people only say, 'Adjust, life will get better.' But no one really feels my pain. Everyone pretends. I have spoken no lie. I don't want to be a burden to you forever. This time it is not my mistake. It is my husband, my mother-in-law, and my father-in-law who are crushing me mentally and hurting me physically. I cannot live this way anymore. I don't know how you felt when you heard these words from me. I will give you some of my voice notes. Listen to them. Tell me, what could you have done? What fault was yours?" These recordings revealed the truth of her final days. They were not just words. They were the cries of a young woman who wanted love, but was given only cruelty. In media, some neighbors said she had been locked inside a room and tortured. Truly tortured. If you look at their houses, if you watch a few videos, you can see that their homes are well settled. Compared to middle class, lower middle class, and poor families, they lived in comfort. Yet even then, everything was only about money. Money, dowry, dowry. Just for grams of gold, they ended a young girl's life. After all this, her father went to the Core police station. There, he gave a complaint. But after receiving it, the police delayed taking action. That makes one think, maybe those people had some political support. Later, the post-mortem report came, and it confirmed that no one had murdered her. Instead, she herself chose to leave this world. Before her death, the WhatsApp voice notes she had sent were taken as proof. On that basis, the police arrested those 3 people. After bringing them to the station, many people came out to protest on the streets shouting, "She must get justice. Her death must get justice." On the other side, when the accused were being taken to the station, some of Radhanya's relatives, maybe her cousin brother, rushed forward and tried to beat Kevin and his father. As per law, under Section 1943 of the Indian Penal Code, in the narration it was called the Indian Civil Security Code, if a woman ends her life within 7 years of marriage, a case is registered under this rule. Along with that, under Section 85, cruelty by husband and relatives, a case was filed. Another case was also filed under Section 108, abatement. And while this case shook people, just 3 to 4 days ago, another shocking case came from Uttar Pradesh. This one was even more horrifying. In that case, a 10 to 12-year-old boy told the media how his own mother was killed by his father and the rest of the family. On August 21, 2025, in Greater Noida, Sirsa, there was a house where a young woman named Nikki was facing daily violence. By that evening, she was burned alive. The video of her burning is so horrifying that just watching it makes a person shiver. How can human beings be this cruel? Back in December 2016, Nikki from Rubas had been married to Vipin Pati of Sirsa village. It was an arranged marriage. In fact, both Nikki and her sister Kanchan were married into the same house on the same day. At the wedding, Nikki's father gave a Scorpio car, cash, and gold ornaments, all far beyond what he could afford. But even after this, Vipin and his family were not satisfied. According to Nikki's relatives, soon after the marriage, they demanded 35 lakh rupees more. Vipin would return home drunk almost every night and beat Nikki mercilessly. The in-laws also taunted both sisters every day, saying only one dowry had come, while the other was still pending. Now you may ask, why didn't Nikki and her sister fight back? Why did they keep suffering in silence? The answer lies in our society. Out of fear of shame and gossip, Nikki's parents kept telling both daughters to adjust. So Nikki stayed quiet and endured everything. During this time, she even gave birth to a son. She hoped that after becoming a father, Vipin would change, that he might finally become caring and responsible. But nothing changed. Instead, the abuse grew worse day by day. Even Kanchan's life was not much different. As per her words and the family's, she too was beaten many times. The only difference was that she was not burned alive. August 21st, 2025. Once again, Vipin came home drunk. That night, he attacked Nikki with full cruelty, beating her so hard that her head and neck were badly injured. According to her sister, after the beating, he poured petrol on Nikki and set her on fire. In unbearable pain, Nikki ran downstairs from the first floor, screaming as flames covered her body. Neighbors rushed in and poured water to put out the fire. She was immediately taken to the hospital with their help. But sadly, Nikki could not survive. But the story of that night did not stop there. The sister too was attacked. From 1:30 a.m. to 4 a.m., she was beaten so badly that her body was full of cuts and bruises. The mother-in-law even slapped her in front of everyone and shouted, "Go and die. What does it matter to us? Our son can marry again." Now just imagine, small children in the house were watching all this. What must be going on in their little minds? Nikki's family finally filed an FIR against 4 people, her husband and in-laws, for killing her over dowry. We can only pray that Nikki gets justice and this case does not get buried. That is why you must become the voice of this case and spread it everywhere. Why do parents, just to fix a marriage, force their daughters into such pain? Why don't they understand this? That if a family is already asking for dowry, how can they ever keep your daughter safe and happy? If a bond is made only for money, if a family is built only by looking at profit, then how can your children ever find peace in that house? For now, the case stops here. But I truly believe these people will face very strict punishment. Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. We are very close to reaching 180,000 subscribers. Thank you.